Yes, Geordies, welcome back to the episode. Hope everyone's well, and I'm sure you're all well because it looks like Anthony Elanga is very, very close. And it's about time we had a first signing. We haven't signed anybody in 3 windows, so yes, I'm quite excited. And the more I watch of Anthony Elanga, the more I study him, look at his statistics, I'm actually excited about this transfer. But I'm not going to spend today's episode speaking about Anthony Elanga. And I just want to say thank you to all you returning watchers, because I know there's some loyal ones out there. So first thing I want to say is I appreciate you all. But in this video, we're going to be talking about the role of a sporting director, who is Ross Wilson, who is Jason Ayto, the 2 sporting directors that we've been linked with. But I'm also going to give you my concerns. It's not very often I give you a bold opinion, but I'm going to give you a bold opinion on them both because I think this hire of a sporting director is absolutely vital we get it right because of where we are. We're at that point, at that tipping point of whether we're going to be a successful, continuously achieving Champions League club or if we're just going to be stale. So I think we're at a point where we need to get over that hurdle. Once we're over that hurdle, we're in the big time. And I think a sporting director will help with that. So I'm going to give you my opinions on Ross Wilson and Jason Ayto. We're also going to be looking briefly at Scalvini. And the reason I say briefly is because I've already done an episode on him, a full in-depth episode just on Scalvini. And I don't want you guys listening to me repeat myself because, you know what, that would be boring. So I'm just going to touch upon him briefly, but then we're going to look at Malik Thiaw because he's available for £22 million. And then we've also been linked to a midfielder. And I think we definitely need a midfielder. So who is Amir Richardson? And what could he bring? But the first thing I want to say, I do know Anthony Elanga deal is not done yet. It's close, but it's not done yet, so anything can happen. And I'm not counting my chickens until I see Anthony Elanga holding up a black and white shirt at St. James's Park. So I can probably tell you this now, and I've already mentioned it in a video because he's no longer at the club. I wasn't allowed to tell anyone at first, but I actually had a couple of meetings with Dan Ashworth, and I've got emails to prove it for anybody interested. But we got talking about players, recruitment, all that kind of stuff. He was asking me about players and who I think would fit in. It's crazy that he was asking me. But I also asked him about his role and what he does, and this is the information I kind of gathered from him. So the importance of a sporting director. In an ideal world, a sporting director will lay out a 360-degree strategy of the club, so pretty much they oversee everything and make sure everybody's going in the right direction and in the direction he wants to go in. And that's all the way from academy level all the way to the first team. So in theory, he connects the dots together, ensuring everybody's working towards one single goal. And he actually used those specific words to me. So sporting director will do their best ability to appoint coaches, backroom staff, bring in players that are deemed most capable of implementing the club's defined playing style and ensuring they understand exactly what they need to do to move the clubs forward. So what they oversee is player recruitment and transfers, team strategy and beliefs, youth development, contract negotiations, sporting infrastructure and facilities, and budgeting and financial planning. So it is absolutely vital we get this next appointment right. And the reason I do say we need a sporting director, now I don't think we should bring a sporting director in mid-transfer window because that could actually mess up everything if it wasn't messed up already. But it is vital that we do have one in because I've said this before, Eddie Howe can't do everything. Eddie Howe can't take training, do negotiations because he hasn't been built up in that industry to negotiate with agents, other clubs. He hasn't got those expertise. So he's doing it on the fly at the minute. And as good as Eddie Howe is, he can't do everything. Now, I have been linked to 2 sporting directors who are apparently in advanced hiring processing, and that is Jason Ayto and Ross Wilson. So I'm going to be telling you exactly what I know about them, their background, and how they like to work. And then I'm going to compare the two because I actually do have a little bit of concerns. So let's start with Ross Wilson and a bit of his background. So he was a sporting director at Rangers from 2021 to 23. He overseen the development of Rangers training centre to make it truly elite, now comparable with the many top clubs in Europe. So what I mean by that, under Ross's guidance, Rangers' record transfer fee was broken twice in the sales of Nathan Patterson and Calvin Bassey. He overseen transfers such as Malik Tillman when he brought him in on loan, Amad Diallo and Calvin Bassey, who he later sold for a record transfer fee. Then he moved to Nottingham Forest in 2023, and the key transfers he brought in Nottingham Forest is Milinkovic, Murillo, Callum Hudson-Odoi, Anthony Elanga and Elliot Anderson, which ultimately helped Nottingham Forest achieve European football. He started out as an academy manager at Watford. He had a brief spell at Falkirk. He went to Huddersfield, Southampton, Rangers, now Nottingham Forest. Now, guys, I'm actually going to tell you my concerns about him. We're not going to speak about his positives because we can all see his positives and what he's done. Now, there is some concerns I've got, and that's a mixed recruitment record when it comes to players. Let's give him his flowers. He did oversee 2 of Rangers' record sales, which is very impressive, but his recruitment has been incredibly inconsistent. And we're seeing that at Forest, because at Forest under recent windows, it's been extremely chaotic with a high turnover of players and a questionable squad cohesion. Remember, not last summer, but the summer before and the summer before that, Nottingham Forest were bringing in 25 players, selling 25 players, and it was extremely chaotic. He only really got it right at Nottingham Forest on the 3rd window, and I don't think Newcastle United can afford that, so that is a little bit of a concern for me. Fan backlash and reputation baggage. At Rangers, Wilson faced intense criticism from supporters, which ultimately accumulated in them protests and contributed to his exit. So pretty much what I'm saying is the fans pushed him out because he had inconsistent recruitment. Now, this is my biggest concern: short-termist versus long-term strategy. Forest transfer strategy under Wilson leaned towards short-term fixes rather than sustainable squad building. I think in Newcastle United and Eddie Howe wants sustainable squad building. I don't think we're all about short-term fixes, so I don't think that model would actually suit what we're looking for. And then this next one tells you why these 2 links are quite worrying. Limited innovation or data-led approach. When you compare them to candidates like Jason Ayto, Wilson's methods appear more conventional. The reason why I'm worried about interviewing these 2 candidates is because they've both got different methods. So that just tells me that we don't really know what we want. It's like going out and bidding for a right winger with 2 different profiles. So let's move on to Jason Ayto, because he's less well known in the media. So Jason Ayto's recruitment style is strategic, data-driven, and relationship-focused, and that's shaped by a decade at Arsenal. So he started at Arsenal in 2014 as a scout and a video analyst. He became chief scout in 2021. Then he rose through the ranks, becoming Edu's right-hand man, helping reshape Arsenal's recruitment strategy in 2023. Then after Edu's department in late 2024, he was promoted to interim sporting director. So he's never actually done the role permanently, but he did play a key role in persuading Martin Zubramendi, Calafiori, and Miguel Marino to the club. Now, because his background was being a scout, he's very analytical in data-led approach. So he was the one that streamlined Arsenal's scouting. He prioritized tactical fit, character as much as raw talent, and he's also known for identifying players who match the manager's philosophy. And we've seen that at Arsenal, to be fair, because the players that have come in do fit exactly what Mikel Arteta is looking for. Now, the reason why I say these 2 links worry me is because Jason Ayto has a different strategy to Ross Wilson. He's more about long-term squad building, focusing on sustainable growth rather than short-term fixes, whereas Ross Wilson's background is all about short-term fixes. So what concerns do I have about Jason Ayto? Well, limited experience in a permanent role. Ayto's only served as an interim sporting director, but has never held a position permanently, and he's only done it for a few months. So that makes him very unproven in high-pressure recruitment situations. Okay, you can make the case that he was an understudy to Edu, but he's never actually made those decisions. The big decisions came from Edu. He was just supporting those decisions. So Newcastle United structure demands a sporting director who can independently navigate complex recruitment, contract negotiations, and comply with PSR. Now, you need to be able to do this in compromise, because Eddie Howe does have a strong influence on the transfers. And then lastly, he's got no clear PSR navigation experience. And we all know Newcastle have had their fair share of PSR troubles. Ayto's tenure at Arsenal didn't involve negotiating with financial tightropes, which could be a red flag given Newcastle's need for sustainable squad building. So this is how the both compare in a side by side. When we're looking at the tactical fit and club alignment, Ayto is known for his data-driven, low-profile style. He worked closely with Arteta and he helped modernise Arsenal's recruitment, bringing in a fresh, analytical approach. Whereas Wilson is quite different. He's more of a traditional sporting director. Now, my biggest concern, he had criticism at Rangers and criticism at Nottingham Forest. So the verdict between the 2, Ayto feels like a forward-thinking modern operator, ideal for a club seeking innovation and long-term planning, whereas Ross Wilson brings a battle-tested leadership and experience, but he also comes with baggage from fans' unrest and mixed recruitment outcomes. Yeah, so Hopefully you can see my concerns there, because they're two different kinds of sporting directors. And quite frankly, I don't think Ross Wilson's style would suit Eddie Howe at all. And I don't think it would suit us as a club. I don't think we're there for short-term fixes. I think we're there for long-term strategy and sustainability. And I think that's exactly what Eddie Howe wants. So I just can't see Ross Wilson's style aligning with Eddie Howe. So quite frankly, I don't think they'd get on. I think Ayto is more likely to get on with Eddie Howe because he's more of a data-driven, innovative and long-term planning sporting director if he was to do that role. But my concerns is he's never done that role before. And like I mentioned at the start, we're at that tipping point. We're at the point where we need to push, get over that hurdle, and then start becoming that real big elite club, because we're very, very close. And that's why I say this sporting director has to be right. But I want to hear your thoughts. Would you welcome any of them, or do you share my concerns? Let me know in the comments below. But we are going to move the episode on to Malik Tau, because it looks like Malik Tau has been linked to Newcastle United once again. Now, I haven't put the link on there because I wanted to talk about this. Como have agreed a 25 million package confirmed with Milan for Malik Tau. Now, Malik Tau is still thinking about it. And I always think when a player is thinking about the move, he doesn't want to go. I think he's waiting to see if anybody comes in to then assess his options. So for 25 million euros, that's about in between 15 to 18 million pounds. Could this be the bargain of the summer? Now, he does have a lot of qualities, but he also has some areas for improvements. So he's strong in tackles. He ranks a top 20% for tackles per 90 in the Serie A, especially in the middle third. So he's comfortable stepping out the back line and winning the ball back. And that's what Eddie Howe wants from his centre-backs. He's aggressive pressing. He excels in a man-to-man duels and doesn't allow attackers any breathing space. So we go to a man-to-man press. So if you're comfortable in a man-to-man situation, that's just going to benefit what Eddie Howe was looking for. He's got progressive passes. He's comfortable playing in the final third in initiating build-ups from the back. And his preference when he's passing is short. He keeps it tidy and avoids risky long balls. Now, that is a little bit more different to what Fabian Schär gives us. Yes, Fabian Schär can play the ball 5 yards. Of course he can. But he does like to go long, switch the play, look for runners and behind. So Malik Tau is a little bit different to Fabian Schär in that aspect. So his areas for improvement: interceptions and aerial duels. Despite his height, he ranks lower in aerial battles won compared to his peers. Discipline: he commits fouls frequently and he can be drawn into rash challenges. So when you're pairing Malik Tau up, he would thrive alongside a more reserved partner, somebody like Sven Botman, who can cover while he presses. So this is how he compares Fabian Schär. When it comes to passing and passing completion, you can see he completes more passes, and that's because he doesn't take more risks than what Fabian Schär does. He's more of a safer passer. The statistics I really do like on there is he's more progressive with his passes, more progressive with his carries. So that goes to tell you that his pass selection is better than what Fabian Schär's is, because he's completing more, but he's more progressive. So I want to hear from you guys. I know Scalvini has been linked, and me personally, I would prefer Scalvini over Malik Tau, but would you consider getting them both in? Let me know in your comments below, because it's 15 to 80 million, something we can't miss out on given his age and his profile and our desperate need for centre-backs. And Scalvini's coming off an ACL injury, so you just don't know what you're going to get from him. So let me know in the comments below. But this is the moment you've probably all been waiting for, and that's Amir Richardson, who I have been linked to. Now, I don't know if the source is reliable, and I don't know where the links come from, so I don't know if there is any truth in this. But apparently, we're closely monitoring 23-year-old Fiorentina midfielder Amir Richardson. Now, I do know Fiorentina are open to sell the player. He only made 10 league starts last season and he hasn't really kicked on in Fiorentina. I do know they are open to sell, but I do know there's other clubs interested like Real Betis, Sevilla. And I'm going to tell you a little secret. There's a Dutch club that got in touch with me saying we need a midfielder and actually said him. So if he goes to Holland, I'm sorry. But if I'm being perfectly honest, I think he's a little bit too expensive for what they're looking for. So he could be an option for Newcastle United. So what exactly would he bring? So he's 23 years old and he stands at 6'6". His dad was a basketball player and that shows in his physique. He looks like a basketball player. He shouldn't have the technical ability and shouldn't be able to move the way he does based on his physique. So he's a freak athlete and he's got a unique profile. So it's likely that Fiorentina would demand about 25 to 30 million for him. So what's his primary role? Well, he's a left-footed metronome, central midfielder, often deployed as a number 8 or deep line playmaker. He's also featured as a number 6 and once as a second striker. But I'm going to be perfectly honest, I don't really fancy him in that role. So what's his style of play? Like I mentioned earlier, he's a freak athlete. He uses his 6'6" frame to shield the ball and dominate midfield duels. But his game is all about technical ability, built on close control, intelligent positioning, and vertical progression. So I've broken it down to his key traits. His two-way impact. He covers the ground deceptively quick, contributing both defensively and attackingly. He's press resistant, creates a force field with his long legs and balance, which allows him to escape pressure with stubble feints. He's got excellent ball progression, so that allows him to initiate attacks with disguised passes and carries, interceptions and awareness. He reads passing lanes very well, which allows him to step up and break play before it develops, but his long limbs and his long legs give him reach that others don't have. So he actually could provide a nice balance to all midfield roles with tactical flexibility. But I'm going to tell you what role I would prefer him in, and that is a Joe Linton role, left-sided box-to-box midfield, so a left 8. And the reason why it suits him, Richardson is 6'6", deceptively agile and comfortable carrying the ball through midfield. He's not just a midfield destroyer, he's a progressive dribbler, and he comes with Europa Conference League experience, and he also has a knack for breaking lines. That makes him a natural fit for the left midfield role, because what Eddie Howe wants in his 4-3-3 system, specifically from that left midfield role, somebody that can press high and recover possession. Richardson ticks that box. Somebody that can drive forward with the ball. Richardson ticks that box, and support wide combinations on the left wing, because we often see Joe Linton supporting the left back and covering for the left back. So Richardson's frame and mobility allows him to cover ground quickly, while his technical base adds a different flavour to Newcastle United's midfield. So he's a lot more technical than Joe Linton. Joe Linton's stronger, but I would say Richardson's frame makes him extremely difficult to bypass. But he can also play an alternative role, which is a deep line midfielder, so a number 6 in a double pivot. He could probably do it in the midfield 3 as well. This allows Eddie Howe to have tactical flexibility, because this means he can go to a 4-2-3-1 and still have that physical dominance alongside a Bruno or Tonali. So Richardson could be the ball-winning 6 with vertical passing range, so he would break up play effectively but also move the ball effectively. He's not a pure anchor, so he's not somebody that'll just sit in front of the back 4, anchor the play and not get involved in the build-up. He's somebody that will try and break up play, step out and win the ball, but also use the ball effectively afterwards. But his size and his transitional instincts could really complement Bruno or Tonali's finesse. So I have compared him to Joe Linton, probably Joe Linton only, because I would actually think he suits that Joe Linton role, even though he doesn't bring that sheer broadness and physicality. His long limbs are deceptively strong. Now, the reason I don't think he suits a number 10 role is because he's not very creative. He's the one that wants to build up from the middle third or the deeper third. As you can see, he completes more passes than Joe Linton, but he's more progressive in his carries. He's averaging more successful take-ons. He gets involved in the play more because he's averaging more touches, but he's also averaging more tackles and interceptions than what Joe Linton is. And as you can also see, he's averaging more clearances. So I mentioned his ability to cover the ground effectively. If he needs to track back, he will track back. So there you go, guys. There is everything you need to know about sporting directors Malik Tau and Amir Richardson. But I want to hear your thoughts. Would you be comfortable or confident with Ross Wilson or Jason Ayto coming in as a sporting director? Would you actually sign Malik Tau because of the bargain you can get with him? Or would you welcome somebody like Amir Richardson to come in and bring us depth in midfield? Because I think this is one position we really do need to strengthen, especially that Joe Linton role, because last season the amount of times Joe Linton didn't play and our performance completely dropped off was eye-catching. So I think it's imperative that we do bring in a midfielder, especially if we want to get rid of somebody like Joe Willock or Sean Longstaff, because we definitely need upgrades on those two. But once again, guys, thank you very much for sticking around and watching. And I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you have, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on another episode. And once again, I just want to say I appreciate your time. Time is precious. And also, I've ordered me soundboards for me walls, so the background will be a lot more aesthetically pleasing. My sound might actually be a lot more aesthetically sounding pleasing as well. But let me know your thoughts in the below. And once again, just want to end with, away the lads.